Well, there we go. Hello, my friend. Welcome to Do Not Talk, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about: politics and religion. Religion. I'm Charlie Simons, your host, every single weekday, 12:05, live with Do Not Talk, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about. And I would love to encourage you to please consider buying American-made products. By My Pillow. Mike Lindell, he is doing such a great thing. It's such great work, and he's making things happen despite the fact that he has been so targeted. He's had the big box stores take down all of his products, including Walmart. So it's all online now. So support him by buying some of the best quality products I've ever found anywhere. And I use them. I've paid for them myself before Mike Lindell ever invited me to be part of the family and actually help him promote his products. I'd already purchased sheets and pillows, and I love them. But they have like 40 different products now. It's a whole store at mypillow.com. But you use my middle name as your promo code, you can get up to 80% off. Find it at mypillow.com/Lee, Lee. Mypillow.com/Lee. Please write that down. Please go check out the store and use my middle name to get up to 80% off. Mypillow.com/Lee. Mark Travis did something that I reported on. I was on the radio at the time, and I was telling you about what was going on with the People's Convoy. It started with the trucking convoy, the truckers' convoy across Canada, when they were fighting against all these shutdowns and these mask mandates and these business closures. The truckers got together and said, we got to do something. This is insane. This is crazy the way our government is going, and Justin Trudeau, the way he's acting and how he's treating people who definitely don't want the government so involved in their lives like this. And stood up, said no. They talk about targeted. They were just absolutely, they did everything they could, the government did, to shut them down. And the law enforcement in Canada. It was an awful thing, but they didn't quit. Then some folks down here in the United States of America said, yeah, we're going to do it too. We're going to follow that lead, and we're going to do it too. The People's Convoy was born, and it was fantastic. And the network news and the mainstream media ignored it. You were seeing it on Newsmax. You saw it on Fox a little bit, but not much. But you were seeing it on Newsmax, and at the time, there was this other channel on cable and satellite called One America News. One America News has now been successfully deplatformed because of their reporting not only on the People's Convoy, but also COVID. They did some very honest reporting about where it came from, what was going on, the actual real stats, who was dying and who wasn't, why we had 2 flu viruses going in the same year of 2020. But yet, as soon as the hospitals and med centers started getting paid to treat COVID patients, suddenly the regular flu went away. And it was one of the worst flu seasons that this nation's known. But yet it all became COVID. Everything became COVID. So they get paid tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars for these patients they were treating that had COVID. About that same time, when Biden took office, the resident of the United States, Joseph Biden, he rescinded all the things that President Trump had put in place to close our border. He backed off on all of them, rescinded them all, and opened that border up wide. And now we're seeing the results of it, and it's just beginning. It's going to get worse. The supplies that were ordered to finish the fence, which President Trump did not and was not able to finish in time because he had so many obstacles thrown in his way to try and finish that wall on our southern border. All those materials that we had purchased and ordered, just found out recently Biden actually refused to pay those people who made all those materials to finish that fence. They didn't get paid. Companies went out of business. You didn't see that on the NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. You know what else you don't see? Is what's happening now. But then you have guys like this.
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates. I am covering the border migrant crisis. There is a massive amount of border wall stockpile right here. I am in New Mexico, just west of Santa Teresa. And I've been covering the border, the entire U.S. border, southern border, from Brownsville to Tijuana. And I've never seen so much border wall construction here in this location. I'm going to take you around and just show you how much is here, because I have seen at spots along the U.S. border where there is border construction, and seen actual places where they're working on the border wall. Sassabee, Arizona, Nogales, Arizona. But it's not like this. And this just goes on forever and ever. It's just a massive amount of border wall construction, because
He's meaning materials. He's not saying materials when he says border wall construction. Those are actually construction materials, but we'll give him this one.
on the border. Behind me here is the border wall. And this is in a real remote area in New Mexico. Well, what's going on here, folks? What's going on in this area for all of this construction to be here? And I'm going to take you on a tour and let you decide, are they going to expand the wall, build the wall? Are they waiting for the next administration to continue the wall? Is this just to replace wall that crumbles, and if some wall gets penetrated or falls over for whatever reason, they can quickly replace it? It's out here in the middle of nowhere. Literally the middle of nowhere. So let's go on a tour and I'll show you what is going on here in New Mexico. But before I do, I'm going to take you in here. Take you on a tour. Look at this. Woo! Border wall construction.
Materials.
Look at this. Border wall construction.
Material.
This border wall. Just goes on and on and on. Look how far it goes. It just goes on and on and on, people.
How freaky is that? How freaky is that? And he's able to find something like this. Thank God for people like him who are down there at the border. I was one of them. I was there at the Take Back Our Border convoy from California to Arizona. I didn't get to go all the way to Texas, but a lot of folks did. It was a big deal. A few months ago now. And they're about to do another one. They're about to do another one. And I want to be there for that one, that's for sure. But that's freaky that the media is not reporting on that. Something like that, you can only keep hidden if you're confident that the media is going to ignore it. And they are. They got their marching orders. Well, I want you to meet somebody. He and his wife actually joined the People's Convoy and went all across the United States of America, from California all the way to Washington, D.C. Mark and Emily Travis were there. They were a part of it. I started talking to them recently at a Republican county GOP Republican gathering. I start talking to these two. I'm like, man, I got to get you on the show, because that's fantastic. I want everyone to hear the story about what it was like and the oppression that they saw and what was happening on the inside of putting together a massive convoy like that. And we're going to meet him right now on Do Not Talk. Hit it.
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news. He calls himself
Charlie.
What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ouch!
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
Hey, you want to help this show grow? You can buy some merchandise at our website. Please get yourself one of these big old 15-ounce mugs. It's a nice big mug, and I like big mugs. I cannot lie. Them other brothers can't deny. And there it is. Get a mug. Get one of these shirts. God, family, country. And that's the website right there, rumble.com/do-not-talk. We're on Rumble. Thank God for Rumble, because YouTube keeps shutting us down. We got to start reaching out, and we got to start supporting people. First of all, like that gentleman at the beginning of the show who's actually down there reporting. Josh Fulfer comes to mind from Oreo Express. Great guy. Derek Gates, who I'm also going to have on later on this week or next week. He's down at the border reporting on things like that. And I can't wait for you to meet this man right here. So let's bring him on up with his special background. Hello, Mark Travis.
Hello, Charlie Simons.
That's hilarious. The your fake background is cutting off half your head.
It is, but I don't know. Maybe I don't need that part of my brain. Probably not. I don't know. It's better to have the background. Can I explain this?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please do, 'cause this is I posted this photo and this video when it first happened.
All right, I'll get it out of the way. So the convoy arrived in Hagerstown, Maryland, in about this time 2 years ago to the day, almost.
Yeah.
And what we did that evening is that was a stopping point and a staging point to rally around DC. And essentially what we did that night is we had a celebration, and we had all the trucks lined up. So you can see the trucks lights on, all the people in the convoy. Imagine the horns honking continuously. And then we had the biggest flag you've ever seen. And people stood on the ground holding it above our heads. And then we would walk underneath the flag and ruffling it as if it was waving in the wind. And then this photo was taken by a drone. But if you can also imagine, just the energy there was the best, most intense, patriotic energy I could ever imagine. And it was really, really a good feeling. And the horns honking it's intimidating. So, and it was fantastic. So anyway, that's the picture. I'm not sure why it's cutting off my head, but how do I get back in the picture here? So
That's all right. I think it's funny.
yeah.
Mark, let's talk about what it was like when you first found out about it. And you're saying it was 2 years ago to this day?
Nearly, yeah. I was looking at the dates, and it started out in Southern California, Adelanto, in the desert on the 23rd of February. And my wife and I caught up with it that evening, actually, in Kingman, Arizona, just across the border. Right. And we had heard, well, for one thing, the COVID madness was crazy. And I actually admittedly, I complied. I wore a mask for the first couple of months because I thought, hey, sure, I complied. Yeah, regrettably, so I complied. But I learned not to. I had always thought, hey, the government lies about stuff. The media lies about stuff. We know this. Both sides lie. Everybody in position of power, they want money and more power, and they're not going to tell the truth. But I always thought there was some little shred of integrity in the system. It's like, you're not going to have all these doctors and medical professionals line up the board, lying through their teeth for just a little bit of money. Yeah.
A lot of bit of money.
Yeah, yeah. And so after a couple of years, so this is all the behavior that I've read about of how we as regular citizens acted. First thing we did wrong was believe it. And the next thing we did wrong was go along with it.
Yeah.
And then some people actually did oppress others by enforcing mandates, arresting people that are so there was all sorts of bad behavior throughout the entire population. And that's what happens in a totalitarian dictatorship, a communist, fascist, whatever.
Yes.
This was happening, and this is happening still to this day in this country.
And we got a taste, a lot of us, of what it might be like if we ever had to go underground. to continue living the way we wanted to live.
Right.
And we also started supporting, I don't know about you, but I started putting people on the radio who were doing what's called PMAs, private membership associations.
I've heard of those, yeah.
Which, by the way, that's what Governor Hairdo has for his winery over in the Napa Valley. That's why he was able to stay open while everyone else had to close down, because he has a PMA on that.
Yeah.
Find out about private membership associations, also private education associations too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of schools that have popped up. You don't have to keep your kids in public schools anymore. Yeah. Please don't. Please don't. Get them out.
And that's our hope. That's our hope for the future is people that are not complying, or that they make agreements with other people like themselves, and they maintain their own the integrity of their own lives. And
we have two choices. We have two choices. If we can't wake up the other sheep, then at least wake up the other lions, because we're going to have to start becoming self-sufficient. We're going to have to start taking care of ourselves, because we have half the population who absolutely is running towards socialism with open arms. They seem to be accepting it. When you hear people talk about getting a chip in their hand so all their information's on there, they don't have to carry credit cards or debit cards.
How convenient.
They're excited about it. Yeah, and that's the word they use. It's, oh, that'd be so convenient. That'd be great. I don't have to take my wallet or my purse with me anywhere. Everything's right there in my hand.
So they never read Revelations.
They don't read God's word. They don't know. They don't have parents. Pastors in churches aren't teaching about it.
No.
Oh, Revelation's scary. We can't be talking about that. We'll lose people. People won't come back.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I know it. We're building an electronic surveillance system that will enable everything talked about in Revelations. The destruction of all human freedom, the destruction of all human... Yeah, that's actually a possibility now, a technical possibility.
You're not going to be able to escape it. Here's the most amazing thing. You think that you're going to be able to escape it, but you're not. So we either take a stand here in the United States of America. We can't help what the rest of the world does at this point. We take a stand here in the USA, where we start actually voting, getting involved in primary elections. This past primary election we just had, the dismal turnout of conservatives, especially those who claim to be Christian. A third of the state of California claims to be Christian. Only about 40% are even registered to vote. And when it comes to voting at primary elections and midterms, we don't even show up. This is insane. We're letting them dictate what our future is going to be, when we have a constitutional republic where we get to have more say in the running of our own nation and our government than any other time in the history of the world. No other government's had this kind of freedom for each individual citizen, and we abdicate it. We turn it aside. We give it back to somebody else, and we go, yeah, my vote doesn't count anyway, so why try? Why try?
So I woke up in COVID. The response to COVID made my wife, Emily, and I wake up. But here we were. Suddenly it's like, what do we do? We're now in essentially a communist, it seemed like wouldn't say the beginning stages, but it was a communist dictatorship where it was not being hidden. Right? It wasn't, there's no way to explain that what was happening was anything rational or reasonable. They were censoring all of the doctors and actual scientists who were actually trying to fix the problem. They actually thought, they censored everybody, and they forced this propaganda of either harmful things or meaningless and stupid things. Wear a mask, stand 6 feet apart, meaningless and stupid, and then the vaccine, which is harmful. All of this stuff, the worst response possible, was being centrally promoted and agreed upon by, it seemed like a large part of the population. We complied. So I always thought, hey, this is possible. I've read Orwell, I know all these things are theoretically possible, but it's not happening yet. It's happening right now. So what I wanted to do, and what we wanted to do, is make sure that before the lights go out on human freedom, before there's a neck on the boot of humanity forever, we at least did something about it.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do.
And you did what you thought you should do and could do at the time. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think it's very exciting.
Yeah.
But first, though, your background went away. There you go. You got your head back, Mark.
Thank you. It's like now I can think. Well, Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking better. We need more
I
brain
don't know
power
if
to
I'm
think.
thinking better.
Yeah, I know. Still haven't.
So how did you first find out about this convoy? Did you see it on the news, or was it just word of mouth? You saw somebody posting about it? Because I was talking about it like crazy on the radio.
I think it was probably Twitter. Spent a lot of time on Twitter, probably more than healthy. And of course, we'd heard about the convoy in Canada and in Ottawa, and this was very, very inspiring.
Yeah, it was.
And I was thinking, and they shut it down. That was the capital of Canada. They were just honking their horns for weeks on end, 24/7. They had people come and deliver diesel fuel so they could stay warm.
And then you had the Royal Canadian Mounted Police coming in and confiscating those fuel cans.
Right. But then they had people that would come and just carry empty fuel cans everywhere. So that was it. It made of course internet. That I don't think the mainstream. I haven't been watching mainstream media for years. I just I knew they've been lying the whole time, so I don't really care. I tune it out. But like I said, I always thought, hey, we got a few decades before Orwell's predictions come true. It's like, no, it's like we're here. We're in a anyway. So very, very inspired by the Canadians. Mm-hmm. And then we heard, we got to do that in the United States as well. We can't let them show us up. And so we just found out on social media that there's a convoy being planned. And one thing, I'm not a trucker. But one thing, we ended up and going and bought an RV. We thought, hey, this will be an excuse to get an RV so we can go camping wherever we want. So there's
you got an RV for this. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we could have stayed in, there were other people, they went journalists and stuff. They stayed in motels and stuff along the way, but let's do an RV. But one thing that was important is we don't know who these people are, but we wanted to make sure that so the people, because we're associated with a dissident movement, we want to make sure that they're at least sane, right? So what we found was that the doctors, I forget the medical freedom doctors, Pierre Corey,
frontline doctors,
and Paul Alexander were affiliated with this. It's like, okay, that's fine. Because we hadn't heard about any of the other people involved with it. I think that's important. It's we want to vet at least we want to make sure that these people aren't going to I don't know, sell our body parts into whatever. So
you don't want to be following the Grateful Dead all around the country. Yeah, I got you.
No. And given that the actual reality is that I was just reading an article this morning, and I remember this. Once the convoy was announced, they sent hundreds of National Guard into DC in preparation that we were going to cause some kind of war.
Right.
They claim it was for traffic control, but no. This is actually the regime. I feel the regime was threatened by this. Yeah. Or we call them regime or whatever they are. But this is actually patriotic, God-fearing Americans standing up for our rights, our First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, to redress grievances. They're afraid of this.
Remember, they put a fence all around the U.S. Capitol building. And the White House has a fence and a razor wire around it.
Yep.
Don't forget that. So before we get to what happened in D.C. once you got there, take me on a little trip of what it was like going across the country. How did you all stay in touch with each other? How did you know what was going on?
So one of the things we did was, so we showed up. We saw a schedule. It was we showed up actually the first evening. We were a little bit late. Got the RV ready, and we showed up. We kind of knew where they were. And these are small towns. So we ended up.
Kingman, Arizona is not that big.
Right. And there was a pizza parlor where everyone met. And we ended up rolling in at 2:00 in the morning and kind of found a parking area. And then we connected with the convoy the next day. That would have been the 24th in Kingman, and we had a CB, but not everybody did. So we had a CB. Not everybody did, but essentially, and this was coordinating because this has not really been done before. So people were learning how to do it. So it was very interesting. There were people, a lot of ex-military people and truckers and so forth, but people that had coordinated like large movements of people were trying to figure out how to get people going all in the same direction. It's one thing for truckers with CBs, and not all of them use them anymore, but a lot of the people didn't have CBs, and most of the people weren't truckers. Probably less than half were truckers. A lot of were RVs or just people with regular vehicles.
Oh yeah, you saw all the videos, and like I said, I was reporting on it the whole way. Everyone else was ignoring it, so I actually found Oreo Express on YouTube. He was going live. He was live streaming for hours and hours every day while they were on the road, and he's doing commentary. And this was my first introduction to Josh Fulfer, who now is one of my heroes. And I would literally take that. I'd have that running, the YouTube, his channel, and I would bring up the audio and I go, let's check in with the People's Convoy, see where they are now, see what's going on. And he never cussed or anything, so I never had to worry about that. He was live on the radio station I was working on at the time, while he was commenting on what was going on. It was awesome to watch. So you had a CB, you could follow along with what the truckers were doing on channel, whatever they chose. But how is everyone else keeping in touch? How did they organize something like that? I mean, the sheer logistics of it is amazing to me. So
what we'd have is in the morning, we'd get up around 7 or 8 or whatever, and we'd have a little rally. We'd have a prayer. We'd have a pledge. People from all around the community would come and bring us food. We didn't have to buy our own food.
Oh, that's
this is actually the most heartwarming thing about this is we weren't alone. Okay, we had people coming from every community.
Just to interrupt for a quick second, I saw an example of that. I was in the Marysville area, a little town called Linda, outside of Yuba City, where many of them really, when it was just getting started, before they went down to SoCal, where you were talking about, where they all really started from there. I was there. We had probably 75 trucks there, and they did exactly what you're talking about. Somebody had a flatbed trailer and they had a sound system. They were playing music. They were getting up there talking. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going on. If you want to be involved, all this, if you want to help financially. But they never had to provide food for anybody. It was a gigantic potluck. People from everywhere brought food for us to all eat. And there was an abundance. There was plenty left over. And I thought, this is amazing. What's happening here with we the people? We the people are making this happen against an oppressive government that we don't want. We didn't vote for. No. By the way, if you didn't vote, you voted for this. Seriously.
That's the way it works out.
What happens when you don't vote. We get what's going on now. And everybody's looking to November 2024, thinking that Trump's going to ride in and save the day and he's going to make everything right again. These people aren't going to go away.
They're not going to go away.
You might be able to fix things for about 4 years and get us back on track. But what's going to happen after that? We still have half the population of the nation who are running headlong, arms wide open, like the Journey song, into socialism. They love the whole idea of it. They don't call it that, but that's what it is. And that's what's happening. And we're seeing examples of it. So you were in the People's Convoy. You started in Kingman, Arizona. You get together for a rally in the morning. What's it like when they all decide, okay, let's go? And all those vehicles are there, trucks and everything else. What's that like?
So that's a lot of sitting around waiting, because basically that's the logistics. And they say, okay, they plan so imagine we're in a truck stop or a large gravel lot, something. All right. So there's kind of leaders of the convoy. They go out first, and then they basically have everybody. This is very slow because the trucks are big, right? Oh, yeah. So each one of them goes out. We basically get one in line, one behind the other, and they'll say,
"Plus, you have other cars still coming along and still getting in, and so it breaks up the convoy and makes it even longer."
And there's people that maybe they weren't at the at the breakfast meeting, or they don't have they don't have CB, so they're just clueless. You got to like get them incorporated as well. But eventually, after everyone queues up and moves towards the exit of the driveway, which is generally going to be close to a freeway on ramp. Then we get onto the freeway on ramp. Then we're rolling. And in several states throughout the country, we had police escort, and they were favorable for us. They were not
with that many vehicles. Let's say in Kingman, did you get a head count? How many vehicles there were just that one day?
I didn't get it. I did not. It gathered steam across the country. I'd say probably maybe Kingdom, maybe a couple hundred semis, and then a few hundred. Maybe, or it wasn't even that one. Maybe a couple hundred semis up to that, and a little bit more than that of RVs and people with pickup trucks.
I've been in several convoys. There's a whole lot of accelerate, hit the brakes, accelerate, hit the brakes, accelerate, hit the brakes. The whole
and there was learning, and there was learning the whole time. And they had to tell people, okay, don't pass, right? Because we'd have people passing each other, and it's like there's no point to this. There's no point to passing because we were all going in the same direction, the same. It was like, so we had to there were no, I'm going to say there's no accidents. We did have a fender bender, just some, I don't know if it was Antifa or someone else trying to just cause problems for us, slam their brakes in front of a truck. These people are, but anyway, it was done very safely and it hadn't really been done before. So but it was very, felt like herding cats, but it was.
This was such a huge deal. How do you, as a media outlet, ignore something like that? How do you not let everyone else know that something? And why would you not let everyone else know? We know why. It's because people like us would go, "What? They're coming through where? That's only about 2 hours from where I live. I'm going to join it. I'm going to ride with them," and that it would grow even more. So they ignored it. They didn't report on it, and that infuriates me. I've learned to hate my own business. I've been in the media my entire life. I'm hating my own business now because of they're liars, they're deceivers. So you've got
all propaganda.
You had a CB. How were other people communicating? They were just like, "I'm going to follow them back."
Yeah, that was the thing. They basically, the leaders of the convoy said, if you don't have a CB, follow. And also, we knew where our destination was each day. Each evening, it's like it's going to be such and such a place.
Okay, that's good. That's
a couple hundred miles up the road.
A lot of these great business owners who are patriotic, conservative Americans donated. If they had a great big giant parking lot, they would say, "Come here," which was amazing. And then you'd have businesses locally that would feed you all once you got there.
Correct.
This was amazing what happened, and hardly anybody knew about it except for those who were following along in conservative media and platforms like this, because they're mainstream.
I wouldn't say conservative media. I would say dissident outside the mainstream media.
Fox ignored it too.
Fox was aware of this, but they were not and they were sort of showed up. I mean,
Tucker Carlson was reporting on it. Dan Bongino was reporting on it. Steve Hilton was reporting on it, and that's about where it ended.
I think I understand just about every day. Steve Bannon was reporting on it.
Good.
So it's like, So this was. I do remember there was journalists. We had a big rally in Missouri, and because every day was a rally. Wherever we went, it was a big rally. So here's the things. So here I was. We're in California, just waking up to the fact that we're basically in a dictatorship, on the beginning stages of a dictatorship, with everybody going along with it. So we're feeling alone. But once we join the convoy, we realize we're not the only people who think this way.
Which is what
this
is why I belong to the Freedom Riders 1776. And there's a lot of groups that are popping up like this. And we do these things. I was just at a Trump train the other day. I was part of one of the convoys. We had like 70 vehicles. It was awesome. But
every overpass,
we flag up, and we want people to know you're not alone. And they can't hide because they're out there. They're seeing us, and they're like going, There's people who think the way I do,
Right.
who actually love
Yes.
the United States of America and the fact that we were blessed with this tremendous country and we want to try and preserve our constitutional republic. There are other people out there like me, and the
Right.
media doesn't want you seeing that. And
No.
definitely the tyrannical government doesn't want you seeing that.
No.
So
No,
how many times did this happen, Mark, when you and your wife, Emily, bought an RV just for this? I'm so impressed by that. You have to pull over for fuel. So everybody's following. They haven't been followed. They're not listening in. They're not monitoring. So they follow you when you take an exit. Because I know I'm bringing this up because it happened to us one time on one of our trains, one of our convoys we did with Freedom Riders. Somebody pulled off for whatever reason, used the restroom or something, and a whole bunch of us just followed.
That did happen. It was a rest stop or something. There's also an app out there, I forget, that some people were using. They were using towards the end of it. I forget what the app was called. But if you didn't have a CB, everyone can download the app. It's like a CB app.
Good.
But it's not. But I forget what the app is called. So that's actually, if you want some practical advice on doing these other convoys, it's like, I forget what the app is called. But yeah, it's like a CB. When someone talks, everyone should have that at least.
We do.
So, but yeah, stuff like that would happen.
We're doing Spaces on X now, on Twitter.
Spaces on X. Okay, that's great.
I call it. And it's exactly like that. We're real-time monitoring, and you can mute your microphone and so on.
Yeah. CBs are like that's for real trucker stuff though.
Well, and CBs are great because you're not dependent on the internet.
On the internet, yeah. And the government has to listen to you old-fashioned way of life.
Because we're in a bad signal area, and it just happened at this last ride. We're in a bad signal area. Next thing we know, that Twitter feed's gone. That X feed is gone. And we're like, okay, just follow. That's all you can do, or you're going to lose the pack. You're going to lose the convoy. So you made it to Missouri. There's media there. What happened? What was that like?
I forget. I mean, because that was a big rally as well. I forget the town. It wasn't. It was fantastic. It meant a lot of great. I just remember there were local journalists. There was like someone, because we were talking to a woman, to a couple from Czechoslovakia that had emigrated from Czechoslovakia 40 years ago during the Cold War, and they said, "We're in communism now. This is communism. So we've come to America to escape communism. We still have it here." But we're talking about, but they recognize some local TV personalities. But I forget what. So they did have something on the local television there, and I think maybe in Indianapolis as well. We were in Indianapolis, so it wasn't an entire media blackout, but it was
no NBC, no CBS, no ABC, no Fox.
Not national. No, there were local. There were some local affiliates, and but really the journalists that were there would be the outside of the mainstream. I remember Rebel News was there. Well, you were talking about Oreo. Yeah, Oreo's great.
Rebel News is out of Canada.
Well, the guy working for Rebel News, Jeremy Lafredo, is actually from New York, because at the time, the Rebel News people in Canada couldn't come here because they weren't COVID vaxxed. So they hired Americans to do it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so Jeremy Lafredo.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. So anyway, and then he would interview he and someone else. Then I remember NTD, which is affiliated with Epoch Times, was also there. But yeah, so the only media was kind of dissident media. And it wasn't. It was definitely not mainstream. So we would talk about it's like, okay, why do you think that they showed up in Missouri? Why would the local affiliate show up in Missouri? And it's like, but people thought it was like, because it was so overwhelming, they had to report on it. It was just something going on. And I think what they said was,
you had hundreds of vehicles by that time.
Yeah, there was no way to ignore it. And they would. I think I don't know if I even watched. I don't want to say what their conclusion was, but it was. Yeah. So anyway, the media was either, if the media addressed it, it was either dismissive or negative in general.
Almost always. I've watched them work at different things. I've been at the Capitol and so on, and they will purposefully search out the goofiest looking bunch.
Yes.
To go interview.
Yes, yeah, and that's
The ones who and they make it appear that that all of us are just like these backwoods goofball hillbillies who are just following along. We're all Trump.
right. I mean,
And that's what they do. I've watched them do it. I mean, again, that's my business is the media, and they're wicked in what they do because they have an idea, and they're going to do everything they can. If you're doing something that's too big to ignore, they're going to try and find somebody that's going to make it look ridiculous and dismissive. So people go, "Oh, those are a bunch of nuts, backwoods goofballs. I don't want anything to do with that."
right, and people fall for it, and
Yeah.
just that's why there's a lot of otherwise very smart people that complied with all the mandates. Well, they kept complying. That's so I stopped complying because I'm like, oh, this is all a joke. But yeah, there's very smart people that fall for obvious propaganda. Yeah. And the media is terrible. There isn't, it's not so the media was not our friend. The most encouraging thing about this was just everybody else. So the convoy was funded by donations. Everyone could donate to it. People would bring cash or bring food.
Did you ever get any help with your fuel costs?
I didn't, but I donated cash because I was looking like what we had in the back of our heads was like, okay, we're going to go shut down DC and we'll be the ones carrying gas cans or fuel cans around. Right. We didn't know. We didn't have, that was kind of it was kind of like in our heads. But I didn't, but other people did, but mainly the truckers did. Most of the fuel costs, but we paid our own way.
There was a lot of stopping at truck stops, I'd imagine, because they're the only ones that have those kind of parking lots that can handle.
Mostly it was truck stops throughout the country.
Yeah.
Truck stops.
I can only imagine what it must have been like sitting in line trying to get up to a pump. It'd be like back in the 1970s when I was a kid watching all those gas lines.
It took a while. It's like we just have to be patient. It was not fast moving. It was like
you have somebody who didn't plan ahead very well and they run out of gas while they're waiting in line to get got that makes it take even longer because I didn't quite happen. Out helping push them up to the pump, right?
But I'd never driven across the country before. I've been to different states, but I'd never driven that. But it was fantastic. But no, that was I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Wouldn't trade any of this experience for anything. I mean, ultimately, it was not, what we wanted to do is shut down DC and then get all the mandates rolled back and get people in prison, Fauci, but not just him, but, that was our stated goal. None of this happened, and we ended up not really shutting down anything.
We made a spectacle. They successfully shut you down and isolated you once you got to Washington, D.C., didn't they? What happened?
Correct. Well, we ended up
racetrack. There was a racetrack outside of DC that volunteered their property that you could all meet there and congregate there, which was really.
I don't think it was volunteered. No, I think they were paid rent.
Oh, but they didn't get paid. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the convoy had funds. It was donated. It was funded maybe like $1 million or something. It wasn't huge. It wasn't, but it also wasn't like. That's why we were able to pay gas and things, and if there was food that needed to be. But most of the food I remember was brought by volunteers and donors. But yeah, I'm sure we paid. I wasn't on the inside of this. I wasn't a leader of it. But we paid the racetrack. I'm sure they were supportive of us in general. But I remember we paid but I remember just saying, hey, we paid them rent basically. So here's what happened. Nearly everyone wanted to go in and shut down DC peacefully. But we wanted to do what they did in Ottawa.
Like they did in Ottawa, Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. And you take a few hundred semi-trucks and in any city, any populated area with lots of traffic and then RVs and everything, stuff was going to grind to a halt. That's what we wanted to do in DC. However,
this was couldn't ignore it.
Couldn't ignore it. So, however,
you could not ignore it anymore.
There was also, this was a year after January 6th. And we knew that people who were having a movement that the regime opposes were sitting in jail for no reason on trumped up charges. So we actually actually there was a lot of internal discussion internally. It was like, if we go into the city, no matter how peaceful we are, there's a very good chance that we're going to end up in a hole and not come out. So do we really want to do that? And there were some people that still said yes, but most of us were like, eh. So what we ended up doing is, and this was just, I don't know if you call it cowardice or just when push came to shove, we didn't want to shove, but we actually had a fear that we would be put in a hole just like what they did to January 6th, or shoot us. I mean, this is what happens in totalitarian systems. So that was our fear. That's what kept us from being from going and shutting down the city.
What they started doing in Canada was confiscating rigs.
Were they okay?
For obstruction, for obstructing traffic, for obstructing commerce, for obstructing whatever, for noise ordinances because they were honking their horns, and they were grabbing these men for the most part out of their trucks, their own trucks, and arresting them and confiscating their rigs. And it is very, very expensive to get those back.
Yeah, that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
And also,
we saw that happen in Canada, so I'm sure that was in the back of everybody's minds there. If they're going to do that in Canada, they'll certainly do it here, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So, and then what we ended up doing for the most part was doing donuts around, it's called the Beltway, which is a highway system surrounding Washington, D.C. It's maybe 50 miles or something, but not initially going into the city. In fact, there were Capitol Police at every off-ramp, hundreds of them,
blocking
the city, blocking us, and helicopters flying around. I don't know if I think we saw Marine One or something. They were didn't feel welcome.
No.
No, this is our country. Yeah, this is infuriating. This is like we're all completely peaceful. There were none of us brought weapons. None of them, it was we had internal security just to make sure that there were no provocateurs or stupid people being stupid.
And they will infiltrate just to create disruption and confusion and to discourage people from continuing on. There's infiltrators and they don't even have to be paid by George Soros to do it. They'll do it just because that's their religion. They worship the government. They love everything.
There's definitely and but there's no doubt in my mind that we are in a state of domestic domestic crisis. There's no doubt in my mind that the regime is evil, and it is opposed to the regular people of this country. There's no doubt of this. I can't.
That's why they keep talking about how Donald Trump and these MAGA supporters and so on, they're trying to destroy the democracy. You know what? You're right. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. A democracy is the rule of the people, period. And we've seen what happens when you have governments like that, and the insanity of a democracy if it's not controlled through having what we have, a constitutional republic. Never in the history of the world have we had so much freedom and say in how our own government is run. And again, we're letting that go by not even showing up to vote, or not even showing up and supporting people like Mark and his wife, Emily Travis, when they decided to chuck it all. I don't know what you do for work. I don't know what kind of business you have, but if you have any, you had to turn your back on all of it for you had no idea how long. At least a month, you're probably considering, right? If you're driving across country and
I took some time off work. I have a corporate job, but I work from home, so I worked remotely. I was still able to work because I had my laptop, but I also took some time off. So I didn't turn it. Yeah, so I had to I didn't. I didn't turn it off entirely. I was still getting some work done, but I still was like. So I had a finite amount of time. I sort of time slotted myself, but I didn't say I risked a whole lot. I mean, there's people that go to jail or lost their medical careers and so forth. But I feel like this was as much as and I'm not a hero at all. No, there's no way I claim that. I'm just I just wanted to stand up.
You might not think so, but I think y'all are. I think you're definitely you have at least maybe just a step below hero, but you're quite high up in my book, brother.
Thank you, Charlie. So are you.
You and your wife, I think that's so fantastic. So here you are at this racetrack outside of Washington, D.C. They won't, and people don't know about this because it wasn't shown on the, again, NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. They had like military type vehicles blocking off ramps on a major thoroughfare at the capital of the United States of America.
Yes.
And that included people who were not part of the convoy, were not even able to take their exit. What did that look like when they had the exits blocked so you couldn't get off and go into DC proper? What did that look like?
So I actually just remember, I don't remember. What I remember was, at one point, the convoy started to try to go in, okay? But they blocked the exit, which caused a backup. So there was somebody in a convertible that didn't see the backup and rear-ended the person in front of them. They were not part of the convoy, but 2 people died. So the Capitol Police, in addition to violating all of our First Amendment rights,
those murders,
killed 2 people.
That's right.
But by causing traffic problems.
And I call it murder. I call it murder on purpose because that's what it becomes when you're actually. I mean, even if it's involuntary manslaughter, you still caused it.
Yeah, death by government. Yes. So
death by government. Yeah. Who do you think gave those orders? Was that PD? Was that sheriff? Was it military?
Well, I think these were Capitol Police. So I think they technically work for the federal government because DC is a federal entity.
They're supposed to be protecting the Capitol grounds, not the freeway around it.
Well, I don't know if it was Capitol Police or DC Police. That's why I don't know which jurisdiction they are. I mean, I guess the Capitol Police is just the grounds. The DC Police are the rest of the city. I don't believe there was state involvement. And I think because actually the leaders of the convoy were in communication with police at every step of the way, because it's legitimate for police to talk to people. It's like, hey, what are you doing? That's okay, but it's not legitimate for police to restrict our rights. So communicating with police isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's just but I believe it was DC City Police, but not county and not, because technically this is DC, Virginia, and Maryland, depending on where you are. But I think that the state police were, did they? I don't remember them having. Yeah, I honestly, I can't tell you what the name of the uniforms were. The DC police, I'm convinced though, were the main rank and file of the hundreds. The main thing is there were hundreds of them lining the off ramps into the city. So it was
resources, if nothing else.
It was disgrace, and they were there to restrict our First Amendment rights to peaceably assemble, and that's actually they're the ones they're in violation. So it's like anyone who says, hey, the police or the military are going to save us, that's very, very wishful thinking. There's a lot of good people in the police and the military, but there's a lot of bad ones too, and a lot of ones.
I wonder how many of them got in trouble because they said, that's an unlawful order that goes against our oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. I
don't know
that any of them got in trouble because they said, I'm not going to do that.
I don't know.
We'll never know. We'll never know. So I'm sorry. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Yeah, that's just, I don't know. It's like they're not going to be. Some are good, some are not, and but that's not the. So anyone who's because I grew up, or living my whole life, it's like, oh well, the police will protect your rights, and they'll come and get the cat out of a tree in case it goes wrong, and then this and blah blah blah, and everyone, no. This is why we can't, we can't rely on people that's supposed to be their job to protect us. We want to, but that's why. But it's not always. There isn't all. They're not always the good guys. Sometimes they're the bad guys.
We saw it with the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is the national police force of Canada.
Yeah.
We saw it when they were literally opening fire on citizens. We saw
I would
it
be
when
disgusted if I was part of any of
when
those
they were
organizations.
when
I
they
would
were
be
mounted on.
ashamed
Do you
of
see some of the
myself.
video? Do you see some of the video of the ones who were mounted on horseback, plowing their horses right into crowds, knocking people over?
I saw him knock an old lady over, a handicapped lady over. I saw him trample her, and this was, yeah. I would be disgusted if I was even if I wasn't riding the horse. I'd be disgusted that those are those are my colleagues. It wouldn't sit well with me because I think there's people. I think that's ultimately what it takes. I mean, I don't know we can't comply with this. We have to like, even if we can't, it's like, you don't have to be a hero, but at least our hearts have to turn away from this. Like our hearts have to turn away from, oh yeah, I'll wear a mask, I'll do these little things. Our hearts, everyone involved in this, they aren't necessarily evil, but they need to, at a certain point, turn their hearts away from it. And we as regular people need to be able to communicate with each other. That's why I have all the censorship and all the itemization and isolation. Because if we start communicating, their power goes away.
Which is going back to the very beginning, the outbreak of COVID. I got militant real fast.
Did you?
And
Okay.
what was the real catalyst for me was when Governor Hairdo canceled the 4th of July. Anyone remember that? He canceled the 4th of July. So it really fired up in March of this year, back in 2020, 4 years ago, this month rather, back in 2020, March is when it really fired up. And then it was the whole just 2 weeks to stop the spread, and it never quit because like everyone in the government, including at this point, I think even if it was just innocently done, President Trump made a huge mistake by agreeing to that.
Oh, he did. Absolutely.
And I lift up the states and the governors who said, you know what? No. Like Kristi Noem comes to mind. And other governors like that, Ron DeSantis, the ones who said, nope, we're not complying with that. We have states' rights. Thank you very much, Mr. President, but no. And look at how they actually were able to sustain, and they had lower infection rates than all the other nations or states rather in the nation. Because it worked. There's that herd, not mentality. Well, the herd mentality, but immunity.
Herd immunity.
Right.
We would get sick and then recover from it. We have immunity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you saw
antibodies. What's that?
You saw through this right from the beginning.
Right from the what really solidified it was when he canceled the 4th of July. Governor Hairdo here in California. Right. Canceled the 4th of July. And I thought there's more to this. It's not just to keep us safe, because if it was just to keep us safe, why aren't they testing the people who are already starting to come across the border? Why aren't they making them get tests? Why aren't they making them get vaccinated if they really care? They don't. This is a lie. There's more to it than this. This is all to take down Trump. All this is to take down Trump because he's the only one standing in the way of their one world government goal. Their Star Trek utopia, communist China, which basically is running California now. So Governor Hairdo shut down the.
Nobody's running California. That's
yeah. Well, the CCP is.
Okay, maybe. I don't know.
He shut down the 4th of July, and I start thinking, why would you do that? I know. We have a lot of patriotic Americans, and even if they're just showing up because they like the fireworks, we come together, even if we're all wearing masks, we're still talking to each other, and we're still lifting each other up, and we're still sharing ideas and thoughts and opinions about what's going on, aren't we now? So what's the best way to shut that down? Stop it. Cancel it. Don't let them do it. I got so angry that Mark, in a small way, I did what you did. I went on a little 5-state walkabout. I thought, I'm going to find somewhere that's doing the 4th of July. I hit the road.
Good.
And I took 10 days just traveling all around. I started in Nevada, made my way into Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, came back down around California. And I found the best fireworks show I've ever seen anywhere in Winnemucca, Nevada. And there were 1,000 or more of us all there everywhere enjoying this amazing fireworks show.
Yeah, fireworks are allowed are legal in Nevada, aren't they?
And in Nevada, they did not have the mask mandate at the time. None of us were wearing them, and it was an amazing thing, and I'm so glad I did it. And that's because I said,
Good for you.
nope,
Yeah.
even this little tiny thing of canceling the 4th of July, I'm not going to let this happen, at least in my world.
Yeah.
Until we get to that point, Mark, we're going to have a whole lot of people who just roll over and show their soft underbelly and go, oh, just don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me,
That I have.
Or don't, you need to comply so they don't hurt us. That's the thing. Like, you're the problem if you don't obey. Because if you don't obey, then, mommy's going to get mad.
Mommy's going to get mad. So real quick, before I let you go, and thank you for sharing all of this with all of us, because I've been wanting to talk to somebody who was actually part of it. When you're in DC, you've been shut down from going into the Capitol. Every time anybody tried, they had your plates, they had facial recognition, they knew who you all were.
Mm-hmm.
You try and get into downtown DC, they're already ahead of you and they're blocking you off to where you can't take exits to get downtown.
Right. Yeah.
So how many days did you do this, just driving around the 50-mile loop, at least trying to make the show thing?
Probably, I remember we were there for 1 to 2 weeks.
It was a long time.
And then there was one day, and we actually went, and my wife and I, we actually went to a hotel for a couple days. And
so you'd have a nice little shower.
Yeah, it gets a little bit camping and gravel. Camping's fun. Camping in gravel lots that's fun too. But it's like, so we're in a hotel, but we were still in touch with the Convoy on watching Oreo or whoever, because people were streaming. And then it's like there was a handful of trucks said, okay, we're doing this. We're going into the city. So my wife grabs the keys, says, I'm going too. So finally, she met them on the belt on the way.
I'm sorry we couldn't have her on the show because she's
kick.
Yeah,
no, she's fantastic. But yeah,
so you're gonna go for it. You're gonna follow them. You're gonna blast your way into the downtown area.
Yeah. So they did, and then maybe got like 8 to 10 trucks went and parked downtown, and there was not. When she came, they came back when it was over. There was a little bit of a drama because maybe that's another event. Someone dumped his motorcycle right in front of the convoy because he wanted to cause a accident. No, I don't think that was that day. No, she made it into the city, but this was after a couple of weeks, and there were only there's less than a dozen of them. So it was. I don't know if this was some agreement with the police or if it was just who's getting tired out first, but they finally made it through. So that was good. She made her feel good about it.
What was it like when you all had to decide, okay, I guess this is ending. We're gonna call it a day.
It was what happened was people came together and then they left. So, and I remember as people would leave because they had stuff to do. People work, people have other things to do, and it's like, all right, it's time to leave. So we left. We said goodbyes. We stayed in touch with some people. It was definitely bittersweet. Didn't regret anything about it, though we did not accomplish our objective of shutting down DC.
Yeah.
But plan B was this. It's like, hey, you know what? We're going to go back home and get involved. Home is Placer County, California, the best part of this state in terms of opposing all of this nonsense. So we were late to the game because Placer County people here are early to it. So we decided to get involved locally with all these great people that are already fighting that fight. They just didn't happen to go on the convoy. They were already fighting it locally. So that's where our inspiration was. So that's what we've done since then. Is start, like you said, I met you, Charlie, at a Placer County Republican function. So the Placer County Republican Party and the activists and local elected officials have held the line as much as humanly possible against the mandates coming from DC and Washington and Sacramento. So that's what we did, because I don't want to leave California. I'm too stubborn. This is my home. I don't want to be driven out.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. No, you're still going to have a few of us stick behind, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure you're dismantled and taken down. Your strongholds are not going to hold here. This is the fifth largest economy. It depends on who you listen to. Fifth largest economy in the world, though. And as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. So I'm telling you what, you might want to be supporting what we're doing out here in California any way possible, because no matter how much you think you're protected, because you picked up and you moved to Alabama, Tennessee, Texas. I'm talking to my friends right now who have actually moved there. No matter how protected you think you are, if this state blows up, it's going to affect you all across the nation. You think that you're safe? No. Things that's happening here, legislation that's being passed here and snuck through here, election tactics of doing election fraud are being used in states that you may have moved to. You have people right now infiltrated in the government. You think you're a red state? No, you got.
I don't fault anybody who leaves. I can't fault them, but they are fooling themselves.
Me neither. I'm just
if
saying.
They think that they're safe, maybe for a couple more years, because the same exact people that have taken over all the institutions of government on the coasts are in those areas as well, working around the clock. So you can't just sit
because it's their religion, Mark. It's their religion. They worship the government. It is their religion, and they are convinced that there's this Star Trek it's like they're in a demonic haze. And I shouldn't say it's like they are in a demonic haze. They're doing their Father's work just as quickly as possible, for his time is short. And if you don't read the book of Revelation, give it a shot.
They've shown their hand. That's
they do all the time. They do all the time. It's part of their little karma thing, that they have to show you what they're going to do to you.
At a certain I don't know how optimistic to be, because it takes, like you said, regular people. Once regular people, and the vast majority of humanity are not evil. Like at least 80 or 90% of people have a conscience, have some sense of decency. And once we wake up, then it's over for them, for the fraction of a percentage that are. But until that time, they're very, very good at leading people astray.
There are many groups who are doing these kind of convoys. One I'm very glad to be part of, called Freedom Riders 1776 in Northern California. You can find them at FR1776, FR1776.org. And also Take Our Border Back, the Take Our Border Back convoy, which I was very glad to be a part of. Got to ride along with them for a bit from California to Arizona. Didn't get to go on to Texas, but they're doing amazing work. And they've got more coming up, more convoys coming up. If you're thinking, I want to be a part of this, I want to see what it's like. I want to be together with people who are like-minded and are ready to take our country back.
So everyone listening, just wake up, get out there and do whatever you can. Everyone has limits of resources and what they can do, but there's more of us like you. And it feels so good to be actually in physical proximity to other people. Instead of
takeourborderback.com.
Takeourborderback.com. Okay, I'll look at that. And
look it up, Mark, because there's another one coming up, and I want to be a part of it. And
they take RVs?
Yes, exactly. Let's go. Let's go. The only thing I ask is I have to be able to bring my dogs along. Cool. So if I can't bring my dogs, I'm not going.
Don't blame you.
I really appreciate you so much. Thank you very much for
Charlie,
being on Do Not Talk and sharing what it was like when you were part of the People's Convoy, my friend.
Wouldn't trade anything for it, so I'm glad.
Don't go away. Stay right there. Don't go away. You want to help the show? Please support and buy American-made products. 99% of everything they sell made at their factories or resourced out of the United States of America, and the other 1% out of Canada. So I guess we got to buy some products there to sell Canada. So I guess it's a good fourth choice. You can get involved. It's kind of like Amazon meets Costco. So you buy the membership, and then you become part of this family. They don't advertise. So there's no big media push. It's all word of mouth. And you can either just buy the products, or you can actually get rewarded for referring others to buying the products. It's your choice. There's no pressure, but I ask you to please explore it. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. I don't go to big box stores anymore. I don't go to Walmart, CVS. No way will I ever set foot in Target again. And you can do the same. Everything you need. Over 400 products in one place, with a family owned and operated business, patriotic family, Christian patriotic family, has owned it for over 30 years, built it. And it's called, well, here's how you find it, at freedomswitchusa.com/Charlie. That's how you get involved with me and my team and what's going on. freedomswitchusa.com/Charlie, CHARLEE, because my name's Charles Lee. So it's freedomswitchusa.com/Charlie. Thank you for joining me every day at 12:05 right here on this page. You can find this show with a new guest every weekday at 12:05. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America, but most importantly, may America bless God.